about your current family.
So my name's Gabrielle. I'm 18. I just graduated from high school. I went to Lake Zurich for most of my school, and I grew up in a pretty average family. I had a pretty comfortable lifestyle. I went to private school for the last 2 years of my high school, and right after this, I'm going to college for pastoral ministry.
Right after this, minutes.
Literally, right as I walk up.
She is sacrificing some orientation to be here today. Thank you, Gabrielle. So tell us about what was going on in your life when you were 16.
Yeah, so when I was 16, I just got out of a pretty not good relationship, and it brought up a lot of stuff that I've left undealt with in my life. To cope with all that pain, I started sneaking out and partying, doing drugs, skipping school, failing all my classes, the whole rundown. And then it all kind of piled up after 6 months, and then in December of 2016, I tried to kill myself. And so on that night, they had the paramedics and the police rush into my house, and they took me off in a stretcher. And on my way to the ambulance, my phone fell out of my pocket. I don't know who took it, whether it's the paramedics or my parents, but somebody took my phone and came to the conclusion that they would do a search through my phone.
And so you were going to the hospital, to the mental health hospital, because of the pain that you were in. And what happens next? When is the next time you were introduced to the police department?
Yeah, so I was in the hospital for around 4 to 5 days when my caseworker came up to me and said, it's going to be a little bit before you leave now because they're doing an investigation. There's been a person that you've been talking to that hasn't been so good, and so your phone is now no longer your property, but it's the state's property because now we're going through it.
So that must have been pretty incredible because you were expected to be discharged, and instead you were greeted by a police officer with all sorts of things that you didn't even know were going on, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the police officer shared with you in the hospital about what was going on?
So it was my caseworker who told me that I was talking to a guy, and that what it looks like is that he was grooming me. I obviously didn't know. I was very naive. I was only 16, but I just didn't know.
Okay, so a lot of our guests here today don't know what that word means. Can you describe what you mean by grooming you?
Yeah, so grooming is a term that it means when somebody is just trying to entice you, specifically into sex trafficking. So they're very sneaky, and they're tricky, and they use different techniques to just reel you in, but it's not techniques that you would just know. They're very hidden.
So this person was gaining knowledge about you, and tell us a little bit about what kind of knowledge he gained about you through your social media.
Yeah, so at that time, I was doing a lot of social media promotions, selling Snapchat accounts. So it wasn't very unusual for me to get just random people adding me. It was just another day in the park. So he was just using different ways. He was very wealthy, and obviously, I'm the type of person who goes after power. I want to be in a position of power and stability. And he had that. He had flashy cars, big houses, nice watches, nice outfits. That's something I like. And so I just wanted to latch on to that and get some wisdom from him. So he used it as a mentor type of tactic, and just, I have this, I made this, I can show you, just follow me, trust me, I can show you the way how to get there.
So what was really interesting is that without Gabrielle's knowledge, he had studied her Snapchat, her Instagram, her Facebook, and everything that she was involved in, and specifically learned her life, learned even the name and breed of learned what she liked, recognized what she liked, and then put together a presentation to her that would totally entice her to get engaged. And that lifestyle was fancy houses, fancy cars, money, affluence,
Yeah, power.
and power. And the power was interesting for you because at that time in your life you felt very disempowered. You were a teenager living at home under your parents' roofs, right?
Yeah,
Okay. And you also were not feeling well.
yeah.
You were going through a very difficult time. So how did he try to reach out to you in relationship during this time?
So like I said, he was just using different tactics. Like he got to know me so he could come into my life. But specifically, like one night we went out to eat. But nobody knows about this. Like I didn't tell anybody. Nobody even knew I was talking to John. So I just snuck out of my house, and he picked me up in his very nice car, and we went out to Giordano's to get pizza. But I remember specifically that I wasn't allowed to come in. I just had to stay in the car, and we ate in the car.
So in reviewing this, you remember that he told you you can't go out of the car.
Yeah.
Did you think that was strange at that time?
Well, yeah, of course I thought that was a little off, but I mean, what can I do? Just kind of have to sit there.
So already you're obeying him. So was your mom or your dad or anyone else aware of John?
No.
And how is that possible?
I mean, you talk to a lot of people. You don't really need to tell everybody who you talk to, so I just didn't feel the need to bring it up.
So this period of time that you were engaged with John was about how long at this point? Was it about a year? Was it about 6 months?
It was around like 3 months.
3 months. Okay, so within a period of 3 months' time, he has her in his car and she's obeying him. What were you telling yourself your relationship was with John at that time?
At that time, I was just telling myself, like, he's a mentor in my life. I obviously want to latch on to whatever wisdom and knowledge he has, not only because I wanted to, but that's what I've been trained and taught to do. Like, go get wisdom from people who are older than you and know more than you. Learn from them because they know the way, and that's what I just did what I do.
So after you were discharged from the hospital, you were presented with some surprising guests in your home. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks. I was in the hospital, and then I expected to go home into my bed and just be all comfy and just lay down, because I've obviously been in a hospital bed. That's not comfy. And I walk in, the first thing I see in my kitchen are police officers. That's not very comforting after that whole experience. And on the table they just had like just papers, data from my phone, screenshots from my phone, and just everything. And that's like, at that point I was like, okay, I know I'm not getting my phone back for a long time now.
So at that point you were more concerned that your phone was still confiscated.
Yeah.
You weren't looking at all the criminal records and the police departments and the guns or anything.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, well now we're gonna have to switch up our life from here, just receive what's being told to me. And
so even at that time, did you get any clue that John was a dangerous person?
Not necessarily, no.
What kind of response from this information that was spread out all over your kitchen table did you get from your school and from your family that were now informed about John?
Yeah, so it was a big crackdown and like a switch in my life, because from that point on, we had a security system installed in our house. I was removed from regular classes at school, and I was put into a tiny setting where I guess the bad kids go, you know. And it was only a class of like 15 people, but it was to keep me focused on my schoolwork and to make sure that I wouldn't leave school, ditch school. A lot of times I'd be walk class to class if I needed to go somewhere. And then as well as that, I just didn't have a phone. And when I did get a phone, like it was just monitored, very monitored. Yeah, and the friends I hung out with were also closely monitored too.
So at this point, you're thinking, my parents are all over me. I'm not getting my phone back. I can't go where I want, I'm not in my regular school, and this is all very inconvenient and boring, right?
Yeah.
What did you think about all of this? What were your deep down thoughts about all of this?
I mean, obviously I was 16, like I just want to have fun and make my own memories for what I can, and that was taken away from me, so I'm going to be a little agitated to begin with. But at the same time, I knew it was for the better of me, and I had an understanding that like the people above me, they're just there to help me, whether it be my teachers, my parents, my pastor, like they're literally just on my side, and the more I fight it, the less help I'm gonna get, and I obviously need help right now. I could see that myself.
So as I was interviewing Gabrielle the first time, which was about a month and a half ago, I asked her, Gabrielle, did you have any idea how this could have turned on you? Do you understand in any way what this is all about? And she said no. So now that we have talked, how could this have turned on you? What do you understand about what was happening?
The night me and John went out to eat, it could have been an easy, like, that's the end of my life. I mean, he's 26, supposedly, 200 pounds, very big. I'm only 16, like 120 pounds. He could overpower me in any way. And even though it was kind of recently, at that time, GPS on your phones wasn't necessarily a thing everybody has like nowadays. So if I were taken away, nobody could really track my phone because nobody has that. So I could have just been swept under the dark and just pushed under, and like nothing would have happened. Sure, people would look for me and stuff, but I didn't tell anybody I was going out. Nobody knows of this guy. It's 12 a.m. Like that could have just been it.
And that's very shocking and very upsetting. And even to you, when we were talking about the kinds of things that happen, it's really scary, isn't it? How quickly something like that can turn.
Yeah.
Now that you know about John and about what you've been through, what do you think made you attracted to John? What was going on for you that made you attractive to people like John?
So my dad, he was an attorney. He has a great amount of power. He's made it pretty far in his career. And he's my dad. I obviously look up to that. I want to be just like that. I want to have money. I want to have power. I want people to look at me and admire me, just like my dad. And so John had that, and I wanted that too.
I thank you so much for sharing your story, Gabrielle. Gabrielle is on her way to, you want to share a little bit about where you're going next?
Yeah. I'm going to City First Leadership College in Rockford to study pastoral ministry.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle.
Yeah.